Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shakedown. With me as always, my brethren, my right honourable colleague, the one they call the A-side, aka Shez. How are you doing, good sir? It doesn't matter how you're doing, good sir, for there are a multitude of F1 centric threads at which we need to pull. First topic on the docket, Oscar Piastri. Where will he be next year, sir, as rumour and speculation gathers around him potentially not being satisfied at the altar of favouritism? Do you think Oscar Piastri leaves between now and the start of 2026, Shez?
To go where?
Well, go on then. Let me fill in the gaps since you're answering questions with more questions.
I hate that.
If we're using common sense, Shez, there is one team that I know of who potentially be capable of winning championships in 2-6 that will definitely have room at the inn in 2-6, and that team has a name, and its name is the Bulls that are red. Sonoda-san will be gone. Honda's 20 million sponsorship will be gone. And so why not just, if you were Red Bull, if we're playing hypothetical games and you want to put on your Lauren Mekki's hat, why not just sack off Sonoda-san, give Isaac Hadjar a couple more seasons to mature and make sure he's in final form, ready for a seat at the head of the table, and sign, as Christian Horner said on Netflix's Drive to Survive, when asked if he could sign one of the McLaren drivers, which one would he sign? And he just said in one word, Piastri, didn't he? Are you buying that or selling it, Shez?
Well, I mean, he's already tried to get Lando, hasn't he? And he did that he went for it pretty hard. And I always thought that the reason that he wanted Lando at the team at the beginning of 24 that those rumours started, wasn't it? I always felt like the reason he wanted Lando was because actually they kind of thought Lando was a bit of a pushover and Max would probably get him. So whenever a team principal of a team like Red Bull that is so focused on one driver says that they want a certain driver as their number whatever, you always kind of have to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Like, they're not saying this guy is going to be unbelievable and he's going to blow everybody away. They're saying it because it will be a nice little relationship that they can have with their star driver, who in this instance is Max Verstappen. But to your question, to your original question, you phrased it as, would Oscar Piastri want to leave McLaren at the altar of favouritism? Yes?
Correct.
So why would he go to Red Bull?
Because word on the F1 curb is that Max Verstappen will be only there for another year, especially if they don't build themselves a market-leading car. The Max Verstappen at Red Bull is nothing but a placeholder, especially if the likes of Aston Martin and or Mercedes, AMG, Petronas build themselves a market-leading car next year. That's why, Shez. That is.
So
why.
let's revisit that question. Unless you want to quickly have a look at the comments, you can.
Charles, you're a legend, chap. Sup, lads. Brazil can't come soon. No, fast enough, and I concur. So go on then, Shez. Hit me.
So if Red Bull are unbelievable next season and Oscar is there, he will get beaten by Max, and Max will be like, why am I going to leave? I wouldn't leave because this team is awesome. They've just won another championship. The loser in all of that, Oscar Piastri. If Red Bull are totally rubbish next year, Oscar will have left what was a championship winning team with a Mercedes power unit in the back and probably the best aerodynamic department on the grid to go to a team that is not winning. Who's the loser in that? Oscar Piastri. So in neither scenario does it make sense for Oscar Piastri to go to Red Bull.
Yeah, but allow me to see you that, sir, and raise you this.
Please.
If you are Oscar Piastri and you're a young, hungry lion and you're looking on not a short-term horizon but a medium to long-term one, then if Max Verstappen goes, so you sacrifice one season, if Max Verstappen goes to Merc or Aston Martin or anyone else, McLaren even, then Oscar Piastri has a team around which he can build, a team that he can build in his own image now? Because who are they going to get in that seat alongside Oscar Piastri that would usurp him as far as priority order? I don't think there is one, Shez. So it depends on your horizon, your timeline at which you're looking, does it not?
Well, it depends how corporate Red Bull suddenly become if Max Verstappen leaves, because they are very capable when they can build their entire team around Max and the entourage that comes with Max. But Oscar going to that, it depends a little bit on the manner in which he goes. If he goes there as a championship winner, yes, I think that's potentially a great route for him. But again, I have to ask you, if he's just won the championship, why would he then leave McLaren, a championship winning team?
But
But I think then in that instance, if he's won the championship, the dynamic changes a little bit at McLaren. He can turn around and say, yeah, sure, the other guy's got tenure, but I just beat him in the championship, so back me. He can as our friend Jos Verstappen said, he could punch the table and say, give me my due. If he loses the championship, he's slightly damaged goods, isn't he, going to Red Bull? They would be getting the second driver at McLaren. And yeah, you can argue he's only in his, at that point, fourth season in Formula One. But at that point, he's already gone through a championship battle and come out second best. So it doesn't reflect that well on him or the trust that the team might give him in that scenario, I think.
You know what? Listen, this is a big if, though. Shez.
A massive if. Yeah,
you're saying 1,000% massive if. It's tech. Of course, if Oscar Piastri wins and garners the support that he so needs and deserves, some might argue, over the next couple of seasons, and then he can build McLaren around him as the reigning and defending World Drivers' Championship, then of course he will stay. But if he loses, Shez, and he sees as the root cause of that loss favouritism, prodigal son, Lando Norris, Mr. Commercial entity, Lando Norris. If you have that, that's a hard feeling to shake, right? Unless maybe you go to another team and start a brand new. Charles Edward, as always, legend, says, has anybody seen Nando? I miss my son. I don't know, Charles, whether you're referring to Nando 33 or the real Lando Norris. Shez, talk to me about this. Who have you got, since we're doing predictions around here? Who have you got for the championship? And be honest and earnest, mate. To save a dying puppy, where do all your marbles go?
I'm going to go super controversial, and I can't believe that this is now controversial, but I'm going to go Oscar. I'm going to wait for your reaction. I want to hear it.
That is insane, fella.
There it is.
How and why? That is absolutely insane. Explain to me why.
Because momentum is temporary, man. Everyone's going on about Orlando's got the momentum and everything's behind him, and he's got the these things changed and they switched. They switched in the middle of this season. Oscar had the momentum for the longest time. Now Lando's got it. And if we're to believe some of the technical reasons for why Oscar has done badly pace-wise in the last couple of races, which actually, if you start to look at the telemetry and you look at what the car is doing, do actually stack up. And the fact that when we're talking about favouritism, let's not forget that when Lando Norris was struggling, McLaren brought a upgrade that didn't actually make the car faster but made it more comfortable for Lando. Well then, yeah, Oscar's going to be a bit like, I can probably still do this. If Brazil goes the way he wants it to go, then I think Oscar's right back in it. There's only a point between him and Lando. And Max, with the best will in the world, right? He cannot allow either himself, and fair enough, he doesn't make any mistakes really, or his team to have any errors between now and the end of the season. Like, not one. There cannot be a slow pit stop. There cannot be somebody else driving into the side of him. There cannot be Yuki Tsunoda, I don't know, pitting first and blowing up in the pit lane. Like, none of that stuff can happen at any point. So it becomes harder and harder for him to win this championship, especially if the other two cars, the two McLarens, do their thing, which is not going to be retire from every race, I don't think. Lando's the big one where I think you're going to argue with me, and I'm happy to have that argument. I'm happy to come back at you about it.
Go on then, mate. I'd be right on that side of the fence with you. You know, I'm desperate for Oscar Piastri, at the very least, to represent himself well. I don't want him to seize defeat from the duels. No mores of victory. I don't want that to happen, chap. He's been too good for too long this season, and that's not. It doesn't feel fair somehow. However, Shez, if we're going to put on our big boy shorts for a second and have ourselves a real conversation, to save a dying puppy, there's no way, if you're picking a McLaren driver going into the final four, being Brazil, Qatar, Abu Dhabi and Vegas, that you can pick Oscar Piastri, unless of course you want to be controversial for controversial sake.
Why?
Because it's not that, mate. Oscar Piastri doesn't go well around these tracks, never has.
Not in Brazil. He doesn't go well around Brazil.
Doesn't go well Brazil. The only one of the four that he's gone well at is Qatar, being second and third, chap.
Okay, let's have that, right? Let's have that. Who? So last year, were there any dry qualifying sessions in Brazil? Yes or no?
Negative.
Positive. Sprint qualifying was in the dry.
Okay, mate, but
who? It's the only dry qualifying session in Brazil last year. Who got pole?
Yeah, but mate, what's the weather going to be round here? Don't have this conversation in a vacuum, Shez. Have you checked the weather forecast for Brazil?
So far, what I understand is that there's going to be a bit of rain on Saturday, but Sunday is most likely to be dry.
Yeah, but when does the qualifying happen, sir? And is this a track that you can get loads of overtakes done in the ground effect era?
Yes.
Oh, behave yourself, Shez.
Of course I can.
No, stop remembering Lewis Hamilton's 2021
I'm remembering
drive
last year. I'm remembering the season before that. You can overtake here.
Verstappen's hands, sir. But you might both know that dude is an anomaly. Don't look at P17
and you're telling me Oscar Piastri can't overtake?
No, I'm not saying.
Did you not see his move on George Russell?
Mate, I'm telling you, in the wet, the comparisons between Oscar and Alain Prost in the wet are true and fair. He's a cat of an F1 peddler, aka he doesn't fare well in wet conditions.
Mexico sees you and takes your arguments. Not Mexico, Miami sees you and takes your argument straight off you.
It was weak wet conditions, Shez, weren't it?
Oh, now we're adding weak wet.
How did he fare at Australia trap when it was properly wet?
The same as Lando. Both of them fell off the road.
And then what happened shortly thereafter?
Well, he then overtook Lewis Hamilton around the outside of turn 10 in one of the greatest moves I've ever seen.
Yeah, but no. But if we're going to get specific, how did Australia work, Shez? Not well for Oscar Piastri.
Am I wrong?
He's wrong? True, but he's Alain Prost in the wet.
Alain Prost would have put that move on. Alain Prost would definitely not afford that move.
Yeah, fair. But we're talking about the wet. If it rains,
it was wet. It was wet when he pulled that move.
No, not having it, chap. Not having it. It was wet when he ended up in the gravel at Australia and cost himself what could potentially end up when all is said and done.
We have litigated that
and
so many times.
Therein lies the issue.
It was just as the fact that Oscar ended up in the gravel was so much more down to luck than it was to any part of any kind of skill on Lando's part that he didn't end up in the gravel. You know what I mean? That's we've talked about this no end. Go back to the earlier part of the season, you'll see it all there. Like that doesn't count,
mate. It's techie. In summary, it is techie. But I digress because we've got to. There's some other things that we've got to cover. In the first instance, Nando 33-1 resurrected like a phoenix from the flames, says, "Don't start, you lame. You know I'm your daddy. How very dare you. Put some respect on Charles Edward Cheese's name," who says, by the way, I'm rolling for OJP, both wins. Maximilian Verstappen chokes. How very dare you, Charles. That fell on the right hand side of his seems correct. He doesn't miss too often, Shez, but when he comes on the shakedown and has to do battle with your boy Cameron CC, do you know what I mean? His batting average reduces materially. Talk to me about Lando Norris very quickly, chap, because a lot of people are still batting or beating even the favouritism, John. Seen Zach Brown and Andrea Stella on the Beyond the Grid podcast talking all these gubbins about united colours of Benetton, that the way that we race is all that we care about, rules of engagement, papaya rules, etc., etc. That was all fair and good, whatever. I can swallow that, Shez. But when Zach Brown turned round and looked the camera and Tom Clarkson in the white of his eyes and said he would rather lose than change the way that they go racing, I said, okay, so this is too much now. This is, they are overcompensating in real time. That's disingenuous. Zach Brown, as brilliant a commercial mind as you are, you can't be saying that with a straight face. Your tongue must be very firmly in your cheek. That's nonsense. Are they, Shez, therefore, overcompensating for the accusations of Lando Norris' prodigal son, favouritism and privilege?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of I feel like they have to, and I think I got an impression listening to that interview that every time the drivers were mentioned, even if Tom Clarkson started talking about Lando Norris, Andrea Stella every single time interjected to make a big point about Oscar. And he made some good points. They were good, reassuring points. And I don't know if that was just because at a point in the season where Oscar has taken a bit of a dip, he needed to big up his driver, or if actually, as you say, Cameron, he was trying to overcompensate for this feeling that Lando is favourited. In fact, Tom Clarkson, I think, asked that question specifically. What do you say to people that say that Lando is getting favouritism? And the direct answer to that question was actually directed to Andrea Stella, came from Zach Brown, who said it's nonsense. But the problem for me is that Zach never really spoke up at any point about either of his drivers. And yet, in the past, he has spoken up highly about Lando, even when Oscar was in the team and performing well. You'll all remember that this is the Lando Norris era quote, which has proven to be so prophetic not. And we know how much of a bond there is between CEO and driver, and the fact that Zach is the head honcho. No matter what Andrea Stella may seem to be from the outside in terms of running the team, he's not the head honcho there. And when you think about that, you come back again to the point about how often papaya rules have fallen on the side of Lando Norris. And when you talk about overcompensating, it's not just in that interview. I feel that whole debacle of messaging around repercussions in Austin was done specifically because Oscar and Mark Webber did punch the table and say, this is not cool. What happened in Singapore cannot happen. You cannot play favourites with Lando Norris. And they did. They overcompensated with that whole repercussion nonsense. But is it too late now, Cameron? That's my counter question to you.
Too late for what? This PR fest that they're trying to pull?
Yes.
Or I think the damage has already been done. F1 fans aren't stupid.
Agreed.
We can't. We're not for the most part. We're not abbots of unreason. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to tell me that the sky is red and me believe you. Like, I can see the evidence with my own eyes and ears. Do you know what I mean? And stop asking me, therefore, Zach Brown and Andrea Stella to believe it. It's nonsense. And then even sometimes people say that correlation and causation, that the first does not imply the latter. And I get all of that. But bloody no. You know, I tell you, Shez, we've had this conversation before. I feel like we're flogging a dead donkey. But the instance this season that sticks out for me, Shez, is when they came over the radio and asked at the Italian Grand Prix, not the invert position on the back of the 5.9 second pit stop, you know. I'm talking about can you tow Lando Norris into Q3, mate? That is
tow your championship rival.
Shez, that is the most I will never in my life. You know what, Shez? I'll go as far as saying this. I could believe Zach Brown in all his like rules of engagement and united colours of Benetton, F1 Utopia, Gubbins. I could believe him had that instance not happened. I don't think they would have, if the roles were reversed, I don't think they asked Lando to tow Oscar Piastri into Q3.
100% they
I just
don't.
don't think they do it, mate.
And it's insane that they're asking the championship leader at that point to do it. Is that not the most insane
It's
thing you've
bonkers.
ever heard?
Yeah, it's
If
bonkers.
what happens if Piastri falls off the road and breaks his gearbox? There's a 5 place grid penalty right there.
It's bonkers.
For
mate.
what?
That's too much. Yeah, it was that was a bit far, that one was. If everything else, Singapore and
Mate,
Australia calling off.
that's your number one, and I've got another number one. Like there's a litany of these. You know, the swap at the pit stop was ridiculous. The calls to Oscar to back off when he's got a chance to overtake his teammate, but the opposite never seems to happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's just insane, right? And for anybody to look at that and with a completely straight face say, nah, they're playing with a completely straight bat is just nonsense.
I would agree with you, but again, Shez, I'll put forth my principal supposition this way. I could explain just about all of the other bits as well. That's racing and 5.9 second pit stop, whatever. Call it off team orders. Australia, they wanted to be careful and risk averse because it was wet and they didn't want to lose. I can explain all the other ones. The qualifying, help Lando into Q3, please, mate. There is no explanation for that, and I think that's too chaotic. Go on then, Shez, as we round third base.
Before we round third base, can I just ask you, right? If we're talking about what Jos Verstappen said about what Oscar needs to do, about being more demanding, about saying that I'm the guy that's been leading your championship up until now. When Oscar was asked to do that, what would you have said?
Oh, if I were Oscar in that car?
Yeah. Or
what? And they'd asked me to tow my other rival in a championship into Q3 after he made an error of the unforced variety, Shez. This is the question that you're asking me, chap. I would have told them to go and fudge themselves. Is that what you're asking me, Shez?
That is the only correct answer.
I would have told them to go and fudge themselves.
So I only say that to say that there is a little bit of Oscar naivety in play there as well. And I think part of that comes back to what we talked about at the beginning of this, about whether or not he would take up a seat at another Formula One team, even if it is Red Bull, because he doesn't want to give up that car. He has done everything the team has asked, swapping positions, towing his teammate, not attacking his teammate, all of these things, because he is scared that if he doesn't, he'll get kicked out of the team and not have access to that car next season.
Negative. I think he's still too young. I think Oscar Piastri in a couple of years. Well, we'll see, mate. Let's have this conversation this time next year where Oscar Piastri could be at an Aston Martin or maybe a Red Bull or maybe even a Mercedes.
Aston's a different question, my friend.
I don't know, but I think they're linked. I think they are linked, chap. I think he's got cojones big enough now, as at the time of writing, to see that and ingest it for what it is. Sometimes you look at that thing. If they're prepared to ask you that now and you lose the Drivers' Championship, then what happens next year? I think that Lando Norris privilege is a real thing. Go on then, prediction time, chap, as we round third base, because this is important. I need a prediction for pole. Sack off the sprint. Nobody cares. Who's going to bang the pole proper for the Grand Prix this race weekend? Round 21, Brazilian Grand Prix.
I'm going to say Lando.
Oh my God, this guy. What are you talking about, fella? Why and how?
I just think this track will suit that McLaren, and I think that Lando seems to have got a handle on it. And we talked about this. The McLaren, the latter day McLaren is very much a car that needs to be chucked in with a bit of a high impact front end and a slidey rear end. And I think Lando seems to have got a handle on how to get that out of this car. I think Max does that better than anybody else. I just don't think the Red Bull will be quite on a level with the McLaren. And I think if Max is serious about winning this race, he won't do, or Red Bull won't do what they did in Mexico, which is prioritize too far towards either qualifying or the race. They'll come up with a better compromise. And if that means that it costs him pole at a race that he can overtake on, especially if it's wet, then Lando gets pole.
Mate, if there is a drop of rain on track, then you're aware, Shez, that your prediction goes out the window.
No, of course, because if that happens, then Gabby Bortoleto will probably get pole.
Behave yourself. How very dare you? If that happens, there is one person who drops it on pole, and he has a name. His name is Maximilian Verstappen. Some say seem to be fine.
Didn't happen last year, did it? Didn't he qualify 17th?
Well, I mean, what happened there then, Shez? You're the one who likes to normalise for some anomalous circumstances.
But Cameron, that's not the point. You said who would get pole, and Brazil is always a place where someone out of the ordinary gets pole when it's wet. Nico Hulkenberg 2010, K-Mag 2024. This is not a coincidence.
I think you're is that Shez? And if not, what have you done with him? I feel like I'm talking to Zach Brown or something. Shez, what's going on here? Granted, Lando got the pole last year, but only because Max Verstappen fell foul of a cheeky Lance Stroll bloody yellow flag or red flag.
What's to say that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, but you can't bake that into your forecast, Shez. You've got to normalise for these erroneous circumstances. Like, how do you know Lando? Like, you've got to predict based upon BAU, right? Imagine nothing happens. Imagine that it is rainy. Who drops it on? And as people are saying, it will be the weather forecast.
You're saying, yeah, fine. You're saying all things being equal, then yeah, it'll be Max. Like, what's the point of me coming onto your channel and just saying something completely predictable? Please?
I agreed. No. You fought valiantly, sir, but nevertheless, do you know what I mean? Ultimately, you had to bend the knee to the one that they got. Listen, here's my prediction for pole. I think Maximilian Verstappen, bearing in mind if past his prologue shares, 2024, Lando Norris dropped it on pole. 2022 it was Magnussen, 2021 it was Bottas, in 1923 Maximilian Verstappen dropped it on pole. Winners at Interlagos, 2024 Max, 23 Max, 22 George Russell, 21 Lewis Hamilton, 2019 Max Verstappen. As far as head-to-heads, Max Verstappen has put qualifying sessions in at Brazil 9 times. 9 times he's beaten his teammate. The only other person, I mean, Lando's done 5-zip as well, to be fair. So maybe I need to put some more respect on Lando's name. My prediction for the pole, Maximilian Verstappen. Give me your race win, Shez.
Max. Max if it's wet. Yeah, well, Max if it's wet, 100%. If it's wet, the thing is, if it's wet, there's just 100%. No.
But you said it wasn't going to rain in the race.
Yeah, agreed, and that's why I'm going to have to revise my answer, because if it's dry, I kind of see a repeat of what happened in the sprint last year, and one of the McLarens does it with Max, a valiant. Although, yeah, I think that's probably what it is. Unless the upgrades that they brought in Mexico suddenly catapult that Red Bull to the front of the grid on merit. I think it's tricky.
I've got to go Max as well, chap. I just can't. I don't think that's where the smart money goes. But again, the mantra of the channel, the Magna Carta of it, is that thou shalt never bet against Max Verstappen.
Here I am betting against Max. I feel foolish. I do. So
let me just get this straight, Shez, as we round 4th now. You're going Max for the pole, and Lando for the race win. Do you understand what you're saying there, sir? Yes.
Why does he do this to me?
I'm just spelling out the I'm just spelling out how ambitious your predictions are. So we haven't thought this through, have we, Shez? Although I have. If Max drops it on pole, I don't think Lando will come past him. If Lando drops it on pole, I think Max Verstappen will come past him. I think the anomalous instance that we saw at the Mexican Grand Prix, aka Lando getting a good start, was truly a
But you think
one-off,
that's anomalous again? You don't think he'll ever do that ever in his career again?
No, he'll do it again, but I just don't think put starts plus pressure equals Lando Norris doesn't do well. I think when he didn't have pressure, you saw him all of a sudden now. He was second in the championship and he was all easy breezy, and the flair came back and the glint in his eye came back. Now that it's the last 4 races, the gap in the championship between him and Oscar 1 point to Max Verstappen 30 something now. And now he's the odds-on favourite to win the championship. Bookmakers say he'll win 56% of the time. It's techie.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? So actually, even if you take the ability side of things out of it, Max has to go for a win. Lando doesn't really. If he finishes up second
no, of course.
to Max, actually, it doesn't make any difference to him, does it?
No, of course, mate. I've got all the Max Verstappen winning championship scenarios right in front of me. Max would need to win all the races and all the remaining sprints. Lando Norris finishes second in everything except finishes 4th in one of the races. And then scenario 2, Max will win all the races and all the sprints. Lando finished second in both sprints, second in 2 races, and I mean, that's chaos. It is chaos. Go on then for the championship chap as we round 4th properly now. Who have you got?
Karen, I'm not going to change my answer. I still think Oscar. It's not just what I want. I think I'm betting on him refining his form and having learnt something from the Mexico and Austin doubleheader, having had a couple of weeks to sit it out in the sim. And I'd love to say Max. I'd love to have Max do it, because I think that story would be amazing. It would be a testament to just how crushingly good he has been, not just this season, but in this entire rule set. I just think he has to be too perfect in a scenario where his rivals do not. And that's why I can't say he's the one that will win it. I think if he'd done what Lando did in Mexico, I think it would be having a different conversation right now. But it's been that weekend was a bit chastening.
The 9 points in Barcelona wouldn't be too.
No, why you have to go there, man? Why you have to go there?
Techie, Shez. Techie. As per the legend that is Jay-Z, you got to learn to live life with regret. Shezinho, you've been a legend as always. If you enjoy Shezinho, aka the A-Side, Purple Sector, no market leading F1 insight, then go and check him out on the Tide GP, one of the goatiest F1 podcasts on the YouTubes to have ever goated. You guys have been legends. I've been Cameron CC. Between now and next time, as always, prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.